Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the Roundup podcast with Capital Ranch Real Estate. My name is Colton, and today we are reeling in Jonathan Newar, the Forbes 30 Under 30 co-founder of Captain Experiences. I don't know if you guys have seen Captain Experiences, but they are solving a problem, and the problem that they've solved is when you want to book a fishing trip or a hunting trip, and you have to call 5 guides and pray one of them calls you back and then doesn't ghost you when you get to the dock in the morning. That's what they've done. They've created a marketplace for hunters, fishermen, outdoorsmen, and those guides to meet and book a hunt or a trip. And they've done it very well. Captain Experiences has over $8 million worth of adventures booked. They've got over 2,000 vetted guides on their platform. And just get on their platform and look around. They're all over North America, Mexico, the Bahamas, and who knows where they'll be in a couple years. On top of that, Jonathan is just a good guy, a good outdoorsman, and a good friend. So we appreciate him being on here and telling his story about Captain Experiences. Hope you guys have a good listen. We'll see you outdoors. Adios. That world is just so different from down here.
I love it, man. I absolutely love it. I mean, it's literally like it totally compares to down here too. You know, you just replace redfish with stripers, yes, and you know, flounder with fluke and yes, that sort of thing, and like boom, like you're in it. But striper fishing is just some of the best of all time. I mean, you know, they're very similar to redfish or any, you know, where you can target them so many different ways. You know, you can jig off the bottom with squid type stuff. You know, you can throw top waters at them, swim baits, all this sort of stuff. And up there, the tides, like they're really pushing and flowing. And so, you know, if you get dialed in on water temperature, you know, the tides and, you know, what you're throwing at what depth, like, you know, dangerous to say automatic, but you know, you can pattern those fish and it turns into fun, you know?
Yeah, man, it's so cool. It's so old up there and people are cool.
The lighthouses and all that. Yeah.
Very picturesque.
Yep. No doubt about it.
I get it.
Yep.
I get it. I get why people like going up there.
And the summers are 75 and breezy for the most part, you know? Yeah.
It's primo.
Yep.
So when you guys started doing this, when you decided to really kick it off, and to now, I mean, what's the difference between Googling charter captain, you know, near me, and getting on Captain Experiences? Like, because that's the traditional thing.
Sure.
I'm going to Google fishing captain near me, or I'm going to, maybe I have a friend that knows a guy. Well, I mean, what's the difference?
And I mean, like that's exactly how I came up with the idea. You know, I was working in my hometown of Houston, oil and gas finance company I was working for sold. And I was like, hey guys, we're always here in the office, you know, talking about all these crazy hunting and fishing trips. Let's finally book one to celebrate the deal. They were like, great job, Jonathan. You just nominated yourself to book us all a trip. So I'm like, damn, okay, walked right into that one. How hard can it be? Boom. I'm exactly what you're describing. You know, I'm sitting in that chair. I Googled Galveston fishing charters and it's like a slap in the face. I remember I had like a 6-page Google Doc of all the different charter names, the boat specs, the guide, the target, the prices, you know, all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, man, like, you know, to gather all of this information, I'm going to these outdated websites. Then I call the guide and I'm like, hey, you know, what's your availability? Oh, you know, we're booked. And oh, by the way, that price is outdated. It's double that. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And, you know, it was just wacky. And so I was like, there's got to be a better way. Wasn't much out there. And, you know, had the idea for Captain. So,
and
that was the start.
When you guys started that and you got into it, was it, a brainstorm after that, or was there a light bulb moment where you said, I got to figure this out?
Yeah. So there was definitely that light bulb moment where I was like, you know, the problem discovery piece of it where I was like, this is just unacceptable, you know, like what's going on here? And I started thinking, you know, how many people want to go fishing and end up don't because it's, you know, so cumbersome. And so, yeah, I mean, from there, you know, like the gears really started turning. I got obsessed with this idea and, you know, just night and day, it's all I could really think about, you know, look at what's out there, not just in the outdoors, but hey, you know, like what are these other marketplaces doing and how could that apply, you know, to what we're building, you know? So, and it's funny because in that early deck describes what Captain Experiences is, you know, all these years later, basically to a T. It's like, hey, you know, a species filter. Does the boat have a restroom on board? Because that's, you know, very important for some groups, you know. Does the guide include fish cleaning or is it additional? Is bait additional? All these different things. And so, yeah, like put this deck together of like, hey, this is the idea. This is the company that we want to build. This is how we're going to make money, that sort of thing. But then it was like, hey, is the dog eating the dog food? You got to go and talk to guides, right? Anybody can launch a company or whatever. It's, if a tree falls in the middle of the woods, that type thing. So I went down and just got in the car and drove down I-45 to Galveston, walked the docks down there. And to my amazement, these guides were like, yeah, we'd love to list on a site that made it easy for us to earn more trips, manage our calendars, that sort of thing. We want to put people on fish. We don't want to be, dancing on TikTok about, fish or whatever it is. So from there, I was like, okay, I think we really have something here. And that's when I moved to Austin, met Addison, started the company, like that sort of thing.
Did you move here with the intention of starting this company and that dream, or was this just happened to be the season of life that you were in?
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit of both, So, definitely once I had the startup idea and I knew I wanted to go all in on that. Austin's just a great, startup town, tech town, like that sort of thing, versus Houston, which is more, oil and gas, healthcare, like that sort of thing. And then, on like the personal front, my girlfriend at the time, now wife, was here in Austin. We met at the University of Georgia. She beat me to Austin. So we were doing like the Houston to Austin thing for a little bit. And yeah, just had so many buddies from Houston and beyond that were here in Austin. And so, yeah, I mean, it just made all the sense in the world to come and do it here.
Right. When you started figuring out that this is something viable, the hardest step is 0 to 1.
Yeah.
And so from the idea to actually doing it, how long did that take?
Oh man, I mean, it's hard to define, but yeah, like started the company in early 2019. And then, we launched in March of 2020, but 2020 was basically a mulligan, because I literally remember launching, flip up the laptop on the desk and I'm like, boom, click it, we're live, posting on all the social and stuff. And in the background, CNBC or whatever is on. It's like, don't leave your house, like your, COVID stuff. And it was interesting because, COVID, everybody talks about, right? Everybody was sheltering in place and stuff, but there were also a lot of, counties and whatnot in Texas and Florida, which were our only markets at the time, that literally, shut off their boat ramps and didn't let guides, launch their vessels. And so, that was tricky. And we were like, what are we going to do? Our business is never going to go from 0 to 1. But we said, hey, look, like 1, the site isn't ready, so this is going to give us more time to improve the site. But 2, the boat ramps are locked, right? So what are guides doing? They're, sitting on the couch, right? So we can call them and sign up more guides. That way, when, the doors get blown off the thing in 2021 and, whatnot, and everybody is, working from home and they have the time to get outdoors, we were ready with even more supply, with a better website and all that sort of thing. So, it became a blessing more than a curse.
You think that it ended up being the right thing at the time?
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
What do you think would happen if you started and we were, you were ready to go guns a-blazing and everybody could fish? You think if the site would have gotten overwhelmed? You would have gotten overwhelmed? A little bit of both?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I mean, in those early days anyway, like it was hand-to-hand combat, like we slapped the phone number on the site, everywhere. And because we knew things didn't really work. And it was actually great, to sort of like dog feed it to users, because they'd say like, hey, I'm on this page and I can't do this. And it's like, okay, let me walk you through that. I can handle that for you. And then it's like, hey, Addison and the tech team, like we got to fix that. And it's like, okay, no problem. But yeah, I mean, like now it's all pretty much totally automatic. You just go on the site, you book, and it really works. And people say that the experience on the site is really enjoyable. It's fun to click around. We've got all the photos and stuff on there. You can read even about like the guides' personalities. If someone's laid back, or if they kind of have that Florida Keys mentality where it's like, hey man, like what are you doing missing that cast, that sort of thing. Because some people like that, but.
Yeah, I'd agree. I've been playing around on the site, and it is a good experience. You guys have dialed in your voice.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and that's hard to do.
Yeah,
it's really hard to do. How did you manage to do that?
Man, I mean, like what we've always said is that we speak guide, and that goes back to walking the docks. And it's funny because like coming from finance, I started out. And I was just so formal, like, hey, yes, sir, like, all that sort of thing. And, like the guide's just speaking to him more and more. I'm like, what am I doing? Like they want to talk like, we're out there catching fish, having a good time, throwing back a couple breakfast brews, stuff like that. And so that's the kind of voice that we try to, that we try to speak with. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So there's two parts of it. There's the guide, and you have to get them involved on the site.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
So you got the guides first.
Yep.
They're first to the site.
Yep.
And then where does the customer come into play? How long until you say, okay, we've got some guides here.
Yeah.
How do we get a customer, and how did you do that?
Yeah. So really, like we, since the very early days with the idea deck and everything, like we geek out on marketplaces and marketplace strategy. And so really, like the way to launch and go from 0 to 1 is to constrict your marketplace, because if we were to launch with all outdoor sports all across the U.S. early on, people would just fall through the cracks. So for example, if we were in Colorado and we had a mountain biking guide in Vail and a fly fishing guide in Telluride, but if you want to go fly fishing in Vail, you fall through the cracks. So rather than being nothing to everybody in the early days, we said, hey, let's be something to a few people. So we constricted the marketplace just to Galveston. And yeah, we launched fishing there, and we said, hey, if you want to go fly fishing in the skinny water, we're going to have multiple different options for you. If you want a $5,000 overnight tuna trip 100 miles offshore to the rigs with all the comforts of home, air conditioning, couch beds, all that sort of stuff, we're going to have multiple options for you. No one's going to fall through the cracks. And so we made that work, and then just copy pasted that, down the Texas coast, across the Southeast. And now we're coast to coast across the U.S., have some international spots, also launched hunting. So yeah, it's been going great.
So the very first trip, you remember when somebody you've got a live, live person on the site. They book, not your friend, not anybody, but some stranger. They book it. Walk me through that.
Yeah.
What was that like?
So to your original question, that's how we got the guides. And then, we've got to find customers. And so, it wasn't even the website, like we didn't know what SEO was. We didn't know what, website. We were so completely clueless. But, I just got up and went to the Houston Fishing Show at George R. Brown Convention Center, this giant place in Houston. And, I set up my little booth with some cutouts of, people catching fish. And, I remember, like our first customer cause like some friends had booked through the site and that sort of thing. But, this guy, Mark Schaefbauer, shout out, working at NASA, super sharp guy. But he comes up to the booth, and, before the show, I had heard from Lee Chrysler, who was one of those, high-end offshore tuna fishing guides out of Galveston. He was like, hey man, like if you can, get a couple more guys on this trip for me, like that'd be huge. Pricey trip, and anyway, so Mark walks up and we hit it off, and we just start talking about, the offshore trips that we have. And I'm like, oh yeah, I've got, this tuna trip with Captain Lee on his, 48-foot sport fish. And he's like, yeah, that's awesome. Like, when are they leaving? I'm like, oh, like next weekend, like you could totally jump in. He's like, okay, cool. And then he just walks off, and I'm like, well, that went really, really well. He seemed interested in what we're doing. And then I'm like, what am I doing? And I leave the booth unmanned, and I, run down through all these crowds, and I get Mark, and I'm like, hey, actually, like I can book you on that trip. And he's like, okay, cool. So we come over, and that's how, we booked the first trip. And yeah, it's just, we're just clueless, just trying to, make it happen. So I thank Mark for being, one of the first.
He was on the maiden voyage.
Exactly. Yep.
When you do this, the idea is one thing, the action is another. But at the end of the day, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys you built a software. You built this is online.
Yeah.
And so you don't have any experience in that.
No.
How did you manage to build out the website and everything? I mean, this is a really in-depth, really intense, back office stuff.
Yeah. So prior to going back, for the Houston Fishing Show and stuff, to build the website, I moved to Austin. I just, pick up and move. And, I had a little bit of money from the oil and gas deal. And, I show up in town. I remember it's, March of 2019. It's South by Southwest, pre-COVID, it's crazy, right? And I'm going to all these events, basically like, hey, I'm new in town. I'm looking to launch a marketplace. And all these guys are like, oh yeah, we can do that for you. It'll be, this amount of money or, double that and like all this. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. Like, does it really cost this much? Luckily, I didn't fall for those sorts of things because I didn't have that sort of money. But I ended up finding a group, here in town who could do it for a fraction of that cost. And so, yeah, they ended up doing great work and we really sort of lucked out. And so from there, yeah, it was just kind of, trying out different groups, some of them were better than others, that sort of thing. And then, yeah, we really didn't hit our stride until, Addison jumped in and started managing the tech stuff for us. And yeah, like we were saying, he's from Alexandria, Virginia, grew up, striper fishing up there and goose hunting on the Eastern Shore. He was a product insights manager at a global temp staffing marketplace. And we met through a bunch of mutual friends, and he was like, "Hey, man, I'm far more passionate about hunting and fishing than I am, temp staffing." And he jumped in, and the rest is history.
That's awesome. So you guys met. You told him what you were doing.
Yep.
And you said, "Let's do this thing together."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Was it tough to hand over some of the reins and let somebody else in on your idea?
Man, I mean, we just did it over beers, over a couple of electric jellyfish. It's like, hey,
doesn't take more than one or two of those to loosen things up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just hashed it out right then and there. And yeah, I mean, I would say that it was pretty easy. And yeah, I mean, most startups fail, and most startups fail because of co-founder relationships, and the fact that we're here together, years and years later is a real testament to that relationship.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been good.
And I mean, years and years is true, and you're right about startups failing. So you guys launched in 2019. Here we are. I mean, 6 years later.
Yeah.
And so you've beaten a lot of the odds.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you got past
by the hairs on our
yeah,
chin,
man.
chin.
I love it. And what have you seen over year? Has business compounded?
Yeah.
Greater than you could have thought, or have things been about what you thought they would be?
Oh man, let's see. I mean, early on, like we thought that we were gonna, just absolutely take over the world. It's like, hey, month 1 we're gonna be Galveston, month 2 we're gonna be Texas, month 3 we're gonna, and month 4 we're gonna be worldwide. All these different sports, and here we are years later, hunting and fishing, across the U.S. and mostly the Southeast. So yeah, I mean, like, when you get into it, when you jump in the foxhole, there's just a lot more that goes into, taking over the world, right? You got to do it one step at a time, one day at a time. So yeah, I mean, like, I would say that, we still, the vision hasn't changed, right? The vision has always been to unlock the outdoors across all outdoor sports and geographies. But in order to do that, the right way, with, quality guides, a quality experience, that sort of thing, you got to be sure that you don't bite off more than you can chew at any one time.
Yeah, it seems like you guys have been really strategic and smart with how you roll things out.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we've tried to do,
Right.
And it's still a small team.
Is it just you two now? Or
no, there's 4 of us. Yeah. Trey, our customer success manager, and Scott, our guide onboarding manager.
Got it. So explain those two things. So let's talk about the guiding onboard manager.
Mhm.
So how does a guide start? How do you vet these guys?
Yeah.
Because most of these guys you'll never meet in person.
Yeah.
So how do you manage to figure out if they're legit?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Scott's role, I joke that he has everyone's dream job, just to call fishing guides and talk fishing all day. And so yeah, I mean that's what he does. So yeah, he'll reach out to guides in certain markets that we need. For example, like the Bahamas has been a big one for us, a big area of focus recently. And so yeah, Scott will find these guides, their websites online, whatever it is. Call and give them the pitch. And then, yeah, the majority of guides that he speaks with say, yeah, that sounds great. Sign me up. And then, yeah, they create their own listings, that sort of thing. But what we've been seeing, as we've continued to grow is that more and more guides are signing themselves up. So that's great. But yeah, in terms of vetting, Scott still speaks with them. They upload their license and insurance information, that sort of thing.
And then if the guide turns out to be a flop, this could cost you reviews, and you guys have really good reviews. So how do you terminate relationships?
Yeah, I mean, there have been instances where, we've had to do that. But yeah, luckily, it doesn't really happen all that much because of that front door vetting process. So yeah, we booked tens of thousands of trips at this point. Our average review scores 4.94 out of 5 stars. We watch that like a hawk. But yeah, I think like, we're talking about voice, like that's something that we really hang our hat on, is that, if things go wrong, we step in and make that right for that customer, for that group. So yeah.
And you've had to do that. Guys call and they say, look, man, I didn't have a good time on this trip. This went wrong, or the guy did this or that.
Yeah, definitely.
And you have to kind of step out from behind the website and talk to them.
Yep.
And how do you handle those things?
Yeah, well, so like one example that I give, another one of our early customers was this guy Simon, and yeah, he works in energy in Houston, and yeah, I think we met at one of the fishing shows or the boat show, but he booked a trip. It was a night fishing trip in Galveston Bay with one of our guides, and Simon shows up and the guide only has bait casters. And so they go out and, Simon wasn't comfortable throwing a bait caster and he asked the guide to go in early. They come in. I asked the guide, how the trip went. And he said, yeah, it seemed like they had a good time, but, Simon couldn't really throw the bait caster. And then I asked Simon, he was like, yeah, it was all right, but it was a bit of a letdown because he didn't have spinning reels. And so we're like, okay, like, what do we do about that? And we actually asked this question in, our job interview process, for these roles. But so what we did is we reached out to Captain Harry and we said, hey, most of the time, it's kind of expected that you have, things for beginners and intermediate and advanced, people that want to throw a bait caster. That didn't happen this time. How about this? Simon's in Houston. Next time that you're out, on a scouting trip or whatever, you call Simon, he comes down, you guys go fishing again. It's no skin off your back. He'd really appreciate it. You bring the spinning reels, y'all catch fish, and he gives you that 5-star review. And Harry, to his, great credit, said, yeah, I can do that. And then we called Simon. We said, hey, we know that first trip didn't go as planned. We've got a makeup trip for you at no additional cost. And he said, yeah, I really appreciate that. So he ended up bringing his daughter down. They went out with Captain Harry, caught a mess of reds, had fun, left Harry that 5-star review. And Simon has now gone on to book 20 plus trips with us. He's done the Devil's River. He's done Louisiana. He's done Alaska trips, like all these different things, Colorado. I can't even, the Florida Keys, all these different places. And what he always comes back to is what you said, which is like, hey, you guys stepped out from behind the screen when it really mattered. And, I'll never forget that. And I'll always trust you guys with my business.
That's awesome. The trust.
Yeah.
The trust.
That's all it is.
It's all it is. Yeah. Is it harder to get guides to trust a software or customers to face or to trust a guide that they've never met?
Huh. Interesting. Is it harder for guides to trust the software than it is for customers to trust a guide that they've never? Huh. I don't know, man. I mean, that's a tricky one. I mean, the guides, I would say, like, they're not trusting the software, they're trusting us, and so early on, that was really difficult, is to, go to guide and, intimidating to go to guides and, just try to sell them, on a platform. But we always tried to never oversell, we'd say, hey, yeah, the way that you set your deposit, like, it's not that flexible, we're working on it. We'll get there, and so, I think that, endeared the guides to us. They're like, hey, like, we want something like this to work. It's needed in this market. We're willing to wait, to be there and, move through this with you. And then customers, yeah, I mean, I think the way that they trust the site and the guides and everything, is that voice and those reviews. I mean, like, that's what we always kind of think about with Captain. It's like, hey, nobody gives a damn what we have to say, right? Like, at the end of the day, like, we're just kind of, the railroad tracks, right? Connecting one place to another or something. Horrible analogy, but
I like that.
Yeah. Like one I used the other day is like, we try to consider ourselves to be Batman, like, we're saving the city, but, we're wearing a mask. We don't want any credit, we want the customers to review the guides. Those guys are the true heroes, that are out there every day. showing people these life-defining experiences. So, we're just the railroad connecting that. We don't try to be anything more than that. And that's where the trust comes from.
Right. I like that. What's been, man, what's been the fun thing about doing this? What gets you excited now that you're 6 years in?
Yeah. I mean, I think back to what one of my buddies told me on a fishing trip. We were out fishing with him, Forgotten Coast of Florida. And he was like, I was like, Jack, like, you want to catch fish? Like, what's going on, man? You keep putting us on all these fish. Like, I haven't seen you catch one. He's like, I get more joy out of putting people on fish than I do catching fish myself, And I think like that's the real joy that we get out of it is, not the trips that we take ourselves, that part's definitely a perk, and it's super fun. But like just reading those reviews that we see come in on a daily basis. I mean, you get people in the Florida Keys, catching their first tarpon, on a trip with 3 generations of the family out there. You get people going out on like these lobstering trips that we have out of Oregon, or crabbing trips, sorry, and like, I'm like, I didn't really even know that's like a thing, and all of a sudden it's like on this site that we built that, we brought that guide on board and they trusted us. And so just kind of seeing that sort of thing and how it's taken off, like that's the most rewarding part by far. And it never gets old.
What about, the flip side of that, what's scary about doing this and what makes you nervous?
Man, what makes me nervous? I don't know. I mean, it really is kind of like having, your own little baby or so. I don't know if you have kids. I don't myself, but like it's, you're always just worrying about, your business, and, what's next. So yeah, I'd say like that's always there.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah.
When you guys started rolling out the hunting, what has that been like? So walk us through rolling out hunting and and what that's been like.
Yeah. So, one of the interesting wrinkles is that, like as we launch new markets, we're kind of pulled into those markets by our guides. So for hunting, we started with dove, duck, and hog hunting 2 seasons ago. Again, not biting off any more than we could chew. But the way that we launched that, and we launched just in Texas, was by reaching out to our existing fishing guides. And we're like, hey, you love Captain for, your fishing trips and how easy it is, that sort of thing. Well, now we're into hunting, and half the year, fall and winter, you replace the boat with the blind and that sort of thing. So now you can manage your entire business year round on one platform. And so the guides love that. We launched that. And yeah, it's been going great. I mean, it functions the exact same way. The site is built to, again, like with the same mission and vision, since day one. So we always knew that we were going to get into hunting. So it was a couple of weeks work to really get it going. But yeah, again, it's been awesome to see those trips come through, dove hunts or, we've been doing great with like goose and crane hunts, so, all that sort of stuff.
How do you handle the liability with that? I mean, guns are a little different than fishing rods.
Yeah, I mean, it's, we leave it all to the lawyers, everybody checks the box and, adheres to the terms of use and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, at the end of the day, we cover our bases and knock on wood, but we've never had any sort of issue arise. And I think that is also a testament to the guides. They're the stewards of the wild, right? Like they're showing people the right ways to get out there and be responsible. And so, it works out.
And what's the next place that you guys are going to be going or wanting to go towards with hunting?
Yeah. I would say like getting more into like the whitetail stuff and big game, like that's huge for us. But then also geographically, we're super dense, in the Southeast. And so just expanding beyond the Southeast, and like we were talking about New England and everything, like New England even has a really strong, hunting history, places like Maine, moose, and that sort of stuff, but then also like sea ducks on the coast. And, so, like that's what's really interesting is like, as, you get into, these new places, you just learn so much about them, so much about these different corners of the country through that, outdoorsmen and women type of lens, so it's really cool to.
You've got a lot of built-in friends all over the country.
Yeah.
Call up and go hunt and fish with.
Yep. That part's fun.
Any markets surprised you where you thought, man, I didn't expect, crabbing, in Oregon. That's a good example. Any other markets that have been peculiar that you didn't expect to jump out?
Well, since you bring up the peculiar, definitely. I mean, like the crabbing stuff is interesting, but what has really blown my mind, I would say, is iguana hunting in South Florida.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the story there?
Well, so these iguana, like I don't know how they were introduced, but it makes perfect sense, right? Iguanas love tropical environments, and so they they breed like crazy down there, and it's a real issue because they're non-native. They're kind of like the hogs, of hogs in Texas are what iguanas in Florida are,
Okay.
But they also have this like nesting burrowing owl, which is a native species in Florida, and the iguanas will go in because they nest on the ground and just eat all their eggs, and so their numbers are down. And so we have guides that go out there with lots of different tactics, air rifles and blow darts and things like that. And so, you can go iguana hunting, but it's been really, really popular, places like Miami, Fort Lauderdale, right. Cape Coral, that sort of thing.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And so they're invasive.
Yep.
They're invasive.
Yep. So Addison and I got out on one of those hunts.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, a year or two ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool.
I'm sure that you talk to these guides and they're like, yeah, man, come down and we'll go fish or do this or that.
Yep.
Let me take you out.
Yep.
I mean, you can only do so many trips, but how often are you taking them up on that?
Man, I mean, my answer is always never enough. You can always have more of that sort of stuff. Yeah. But, we also tell the guides like, hey, we appreciate that, but, like we're going to take care of you, and that sort of thing. But I don't know. Like one of the cool things that we have like with everybody on the team is that, we give you free trips. Like the company will, cover that because, it's important for us to get out there with the guides and do that sort of thing.
You got to live it.
What's that?
You have to live it.
Exactly. And the guides appreciate, again, stepping out from behind the laptop. So we've done some cool trips with our guides, I mean, everywhere you can think of in Texas, both hunting and fishing, stuff in Florida, sailfish, off of Miami, running out of Clearwater, to the banks, way offshore for grouper and that sort of thing. Man, it's just awesome. Yeah.
Good.
It's really fun.
So when you scaled, you guys kind of took a hockey stick up, you really scaled. What was that like? You guys had some funding, you had some really legitimate funding that you guys had worked up.
Yep. Yeah. So we raised a little bit of venture money, and that's been great. That really provides, that jet fuel to go and take off. And so, I mean, like, since then, we've 10x plus the business. So it's been really exciting. And that allowed us to grow the team, that sort of thing.
What was that like? I mean, how do you go about doing that? So you need some money.
Yeah.
You start calling up investors.
Yeah.
How do you find them? What's the conversation like? Do they hunt? Do they care about hunting, or is it about the bottom dollar?
Yeah, I mean, it's a real, dog and pony show. Again, you put the deck together, you put all these numbers on the market together, right? Because, venture investors, they want to see a huge TAM, addressable market. And, I think that's been a real issue for not just us, but others in the outdoors. And like the first report that I see from the OIA, Outdoor Industry Association, says that Americans spend $887 billion annually on outdoor sports. That's more than pharmaceuticals and motor vehicles and parts. So, you're trying to hit these investors over the head with this sort of thing. And they're like, okay, well, how big is the guiding market? Well, from what we can see, the guiding market is 15 billion, across all of these outdoor sports. So, yeah, I mean, it's a big market, and it's just sitting there for the taking. But in terms of like finding these investors and stuff, I mean, really where we started was with Capital Factory, this co-working space / accelerator, they kind of, they brand themselves as, ground zero for startups in Austin. And so, we started there, and through their network, we met some investors, and then, you just say, hey, it seems like we've really hit it off, are there, 2 or 3 others that you think could be a good fit? And, you just kind of start building the network that way. But yeah, I mean, like the fundraising stuff, it's taken us, all across the country, New York, LA, talking with investors in Silicon Valley and that sort of thing. Florida, obviously Texas. So
what are some of the no's? You get a lot of no's pitching to investors. So
yeah.
what do they say? What are their insights that they think, I don't think this is right for me?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything under the sun. I mean, it's definitely been a struggle, to find investors that, believe in the outdoors. They're more focused on, tech and AI and those shiny objects. I mean, I remember, meeting with one group in Silicon Valley and, their thoughts were, and this was like, the cryptocurrency craze and, NFTs and all that. And they were like, you should issue, an NFT so that every time somebody catches a new species of fish, they get minted this NFT on the blockchain. I'm like, I don't know half the words that you just said. And, that just means that 90% of our customers are not going to know what the hell you're talking about. Like they want to catch fish, and maybe get it mounted over their TV or something, they don't need an NFT.
Yeah.
So it's stuff like that, but I will say, there's two sides of every coin. And the benefit of that is that, we knew pretty quickly, who our investors were going to be and who they weren't going to be, and the second best thing to a yes is a no, right? So, we'd get lots of no's and we'd say, thank you very much.
Right. So it is, at the end of the day, again, y'all are a tech company, right?
Yeah, sure.
And so is it the Silicon Valley investor, or is it the oil and gas guy that, understands hunting and fishing and is excited about what you guys are doing?
Yeah.
Is it both?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like the investor profile that we've had the most success with is yeah, I mean, there's definitely that latter group, but it's really the investor who can have that empathy for the customer and understand that experience and say, hey, like I might not be a diehard angler or that sort of thing, but I see how this can become big and how important this is for so many people out there, and so I really respect that take on it and that perspective. Versus, a lot of these people like, I don't hunt, I don't fish, therefore it's not for me, So yeah, like the people, the investors on our cap table, they see it that way, and that's very appreciated.
Yeah. When you guys got some of this money, you decided to do a TV.
Yeah.
Which I've watched. It's hilarious. It's great.
Yeah,
what was that like?
Man, it was fun. So yeah, I mean, like through, meeting investors, we connected with this group MMC, which is, a media for equity, fund. And so,
Explain that.
So yeah, instead of, investing cash, they invest, media. And so they have, some partner businesses, and one of those businesses is Sinclair Broadcast Group, one of the largest, TV broadcasting and other media companies, in the US. And so, yeah, we hit it off. They said, hey, we love what you guys are doing in the outdoors. We want to be a part of it. So yeah, we worked out a deal towards the end of this past year, whereby they would invest this media, and then we Captain would fill it and use that for demand, because where we're at with the business right now, we're past the 0 to 1 thing, right? And so we've realized, hey, the number one thing that we need is more demand, more eyeballs, that sort of thing. Because when we do that sort of stuff, the guides, they sign themselves up. It just kind of happens that way now because things are streamlined. So we said now's the perfect time for to make a big splash like this TV thing. So yeah, we did the deal. And then we're like, okay, check that box. Well, now we need an ad, right? Like, what are we going to do? So yeah, we worked with this amazing team, Black Coals. They do a lot of work in the outdoors. They're fantastic. So shout out to Asher and the guys. They're awesome. But yeah, so we scheduled something, last minute, went down to the Florida Keys and shot that with one of our guides. And yeah, the whole premise is, the story of Captain, which is, Addison and myself, being, buddy 1 and buddy 2, otherwise known as idiot 1 and idiot 2, going out, trying to, book our own trip. We're on this, piece of crud, John boat that's basically about to sink. And it's funny because, we had the specs for the ad where it was like, we need to find, a POS John boat, right? And man, did the team do a good job finding a really, really horrible job.
You don't have to look far for those on
exactly.
Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah. So yeah, I ended up falling overboard in this thing. We nearly sunk all this stuff. But yeah, anyway, it was a great ad spot. It was a lot of fun to shoot. And yeah, the feedback on it's been great. So yeah, with this with this arrangement, we've been able to broadcast Captain and get that story out all across the country, and in like some premium programming, like live sports, PGA golf, March Madness was big for us. MLB All-Star Game, like all of these sorts of things. And yeah, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that our target demo is watching. And so yeah, it's been really good for us.
That's a brilliant idea. It's not like the local news. This is legitimate big programming, which otherwise would be unaccessible for, most businesses.
Exactly.
Great business model.
I appreciate it. And yeah, we've done, the local news and that sort of stuff too. And that's great in its own right. But yeah, part of the calculus too was, hey, like conventional thinking would lead you to say that, it's a little bit early, right, for us in the business to be doing this TV stuff. But again, the flip side of that coin is that, it makes even more of a splash if you're doing that kind of thing early on and really just, firing out of the gates, and cannonballing into the deep end. So that's the impact that it's had, really.
And with your marketing, being that you guys are online, do you invest a lot into SEO? Do you do a lot of SEO stuff? What have you found that works?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we do a lot of that, and it's funny because again, knowing absolutely nothing, starting the business, I walked the docks in Galveston that first weekend, and I'll never forget it. Captain Ricky is fixing a zip tie on his crab trap, and I'm like, hey, I'm Jonathan Newar. I want to get you on my site, and he's like, how are you gonna help me with SEO? And I was like, like this is like a fishing tactic I've never heard of. I'm like, sorry, sir, like SEO. He's like, search engine optimization, kid. You're never going to make it. Like, you're done. And I'm like, okay, well, I got to learn up on this. So yeah, I literally get back in the truck and I search engine, kind of weird to Google search engine optimization. But anyway, I look it up and I'm like, okay. And then get back to Capital Factory, and they have this amazing resource where you can book office hours with these advisors. And so, like I was just like SEO, book, and slowly started climbing up the learning curve. And so, like that's what we've done. And so, now if you Google things like, Galveston fishing charters, Key West fishing guides, that sort of stuff, you should see us, pretty prominently there. And then we've also done a good job with the fishing reports. Again, like not trying to put Captain first, but put our guides first, so our guides send in their fishing reports and we get those out on these landing pages and share them in our newsletter. And I mean, like that's just red meat to, the customer base who doesn't want to know, that the mahi are running, down in South Florida right now. Like, it just hits.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Have there been any marketing strategies that surprised you that have been interesting to watch?
Oh man, let's see. Man, I don't know. I mean, it's like we're always just trying to do more, with the content stuff and that sort of thing. But yeah, like I think like that was a huge learning for us, which was, we'd launch a new feature and be like, oh, now you can, search by boat amenities or something like that. Like nobody really cares. Like people just kind of want to see that stuff. What they care about is having, quality guides and a breadth of quality guides, again, so that nobody falls through the cracks. And so, we've had a lot more success, highlighting our guides and their stories and their personalities and their trips versus highlighting, hey, we, changed a button from purple to gold or something, know?
Yeah. It translates on the side. The side reads really well.
Appreciate it.
It's easy to see and it is fun to look at.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. What's a place that you would love to see Captain Experiances in?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty obsessed with like the bill fishing stuff and catching marlin. So like the Azores, Cape Verde, Australia would be awesome. There's so much down there. New Zealand, never.
You mean
been
down
there.
under?
Yeah, down under, totally. The Great Barrier Reef and all of that. Like they collect more it's like the black marlin spawning grounds. So they go every year, so like doing stuff like that. And yeah, Argentina, Chile, it's just down there. We were talking about weddings for a buddy's wedding and did some fishing down there. And I was just blown away, flying down there, everybody, boarding our flight to Buenos Aires, and Patagonia stuff or Howler Bros or, Duck Camp, like everybody's going down there to hunt and fish,
Really?
It's like, what are we doing? We got to plant the flag, get down there.
What would that look like? If you say, let's get to Argentina, you start same thing. You start calling guides and start, getting them on the site, right?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, just, focusing on, on breadth and, not letting anybody fall through the cracks. So maybe what that looks like is like, hey, we're just going to focus in Patagonia for a bit, or like, hey, we're just going to focus up north. But whatever we get into, we want to have a breadth of options and give people, a decision to make so that they can find the best trip for them.
Check. You've been all over Texas.
Mm-hmm.
What's the underrated spot, man? What's the hidden gem?
Oh, man. Hidden gem. Like I'm a saltwater guy. Like I prefer that sort of thing. But hidden gem, I'd say, is Falcon Lake, down on the border, Zapata, Texas.
I've never even heard of that.
Yeah.
Wait, tell me about it.
Oh man, so I don't even know how big it is. It's giant, if you look at it on a map. But just great bass fishing, and it's cool because the lake is literally on the border, and so running through the middle of this massive lake are just these huge pilings or whatever, and that is to delineate Mexican waters from Texas waters. And so the fishing is great and that sort of thing. And then, so Addison and I, in the early days, we called it our Texas World Tour, but we did this big loop, going and meeting with our guides and, seeing what's up and what they need. And so, we started in doing Calaveras Lake, which is actually another hidden gem, but freshwater redfish. So TPWD stocks Calaveras Lake and I think it's Browning Lake Lake, and just outside San Antonio every year with redfish.
Cool.
Because they're freshwater redfish, they don't spawn and reproduce, but they stock them every year, and it's really just to make red fishing accessible for people without having to drive to the coast. Anyway, so that's an awesome one. Then we did Falcon Lake, and then we drove to South Padre, and we did some state water red snapper fishing, which is great. And then worked our way up the coast, doing the Rockport inshore stuff, Port O'Connor, that sort of thing.
Check.
But Texas, we're really in a fortunate spot, to have so much great hunting and fishing.
That's for sure, man. There's a lot out there.
Yep.
It's a big state.
Oh yeah.
And there's everything you could ever dream of. We got the mountains, we got the plains, deep East Texas lakes.
Yep. Which I still haven't done. I'm dying to do that sort of thing.
Yeah. We could get out there. We get out to Caddo.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll go do that.
Yep.
Okay, what about, let me get you one.
Sure.
Biggest adrenaline rush, or bigger adrenaline rush, getting your first client, landing your first sailfish.
Oof. Man, oh, that's tough because my first sail was Miami with Addison, one of our guides, Richard. That was epic. I was stoked about that. But I would say it's the first customer. Whenever we booked one of those trips early on, it really was handling the phones, putting in their credit card information, that sort of thing. And as soon as I hung up, I'd be like, Tiger Woods fist pumping, like, let's go, that sort of thing. So I would have to say that, actually.
Yeah, that's special.
Yeah.
What about what's one thing you never leave home without when you're getting out on an adventure?
Oh man, never leave home without Leatherman, pocket knife, like that sort of thing.
Good call.
Yeah.
Good call. Good stuff, man. And then what about a dream guest, dream person you'd love to take out on a trip?
Oh man, let's see.
Go big here.
Go big. Let's see. Dream guest. Oh man, that's so hard.
And it could be any pursuit.
Yeah.
What do you got?
I mean, recently, because I just got caught up watching the French Open and Wimbledon's coming up, so think like tennis on the mind. Tommy Paul, he's one of the best U.S. tennis players right now, and he's a huge fisherman down in South Florida. So, I think that one would be attainable. And then obviously, posthumously or whatever, you have Hemingway, you've got Jimmy Buffett, like all those guys could really get after it and fish hard.
Okay, Tommy. Listen up, man.
Yeah, there it is.
Let's go fishing.
Let's do it.
Hemingway, that's a good one.
Yeah.
You think you could hang with Hemingway?
Man, I mean, on the fishing side, I think I could hang. On the drinking side, he might put me under this table.
I think so, man.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, he'd be a tough one, man.
Yeah,
that's a good answer, Hemingway. Yeah, man. We'll go run with the Bulls with him.
Exactly.
That's good. So what are you looking at the next season of Captain Experiences? What are you feeling like that's going to bring for you guys?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really a focus of two things. One, going deeper into that international fishing stuff. While filling a couple spots here and there in the U.S. But then also, doing more to get hunting, up to speed and catching up on fishing's heels. So, just going deeper across the U.S. with that sort of thing.
I love it, man. Could our landowners get on with you guys? We sell ranches. Could they get on with Captain Experiences for hunting or something like that?
Definitely, yeah.
Where can they go to do that?
Yeah, I mean, they just go to Captain Experiences and you click sign up and it asks you if you're a guide. You say yes, and you do it. And yeah, I mean, like that's a huge need for us right now as we get deeper into the hunting stuff is, landowners and those relationships. So
good.
Yeah, man.
And then I didn't ask you, but the name Captain Experiences, was that done after some brainstorming or where did the name come from?
Yeah, I mean, we had a couple different, ideas for names early on, and, it just seemed to be the one that, resonated most, with myself and, and Addison, but then also like it was the one that people could really remember. And so, we ran with it.
Yeah, man. It's a good name.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Good. Well, where else can people check you out on socials and the website?
Yeah. I mean, it's all just Captain, Captain Experiences on social. The website's captainexperiences.com. Keep an eye out for the TV ad spot if you're watching live sports, news, that sort of thing. And yeah, I mean, hopefully we can help get people outdoors.
Good deal, man. You guys go book a hunt, go have fun, get outside, and we'll see you next time.
Sweet. Appreciate it.
All right. Adios.